Welcome to The Pastor Who Hated Church. Follow Elvis Jung on his journey of redemption. Chapter 2. The Evergreen Community Church had a congregation of 750. The congregation was mostly generational. Children grew up in the church, married from within the youth group, then settled down to raise their children in the same church as their parents. Despite its size, it was a tightly knit group. Evergreen was a 150-year-old Victorian building in the downtown of the city. Its centerpiece was a pristine, white sanctuary with chandeliers illuminating every third row. Stained glass windows displaying the life of Christ adorned both ends of the sanctuary. They were the gift of the church's founding family, the Finnegans. Elvis was hired to serve as the associate pastor in charge of worship and education. He accepted the job with enthusiasm. He hoped, like most seminary graduates, to make his mark in this church. The senior pastor was Reverend Archibald Wingate, who served at the church 12 years. Like most pastors, Archibald earned his stripes in smaller rural churches. When he had successfully led his last congregation in a building project, he earned the promotion to Evergreen Community Church. Archibald met with Elvis his first day at the church. Archibald knocked on the door to his office, entered, and sat down. "How are you settling in?" asked Archibald. "Good, thanks," said Elvis. Archibald looked around the bare room and sighed. "I remember my first church. It seems like ages ago. It was so exciting." "Yeah," Elvis said. He forced a smile. "So, any ideas for worship? I know everyone is excited to see what you'll add to the mix," said Archibald. Elvis thought for a second. "I don't want to do too much. If it's not broken, right? I thought maybe a worship chorus, maybe as a call to worship or something." Archibald nodded his head and smiled. It reminded Elvis of a televangelist's smile. "That sounds promising. It'll shake things up a bit. Nothing wrong with keeping people on their toes. Well, I'll let you get organized. We've got a business meeting coming up, so you'll need to get ready. Just remember, if there's anything you need, just give me a call. Anything at all." Elvis watched Archibald leave. This was going to be a good fit, Elvis thought to himself. The church had two other members on its pastoral staff. Paul Wilson was the youth pastor. Like Archibald Wingate, he earned his reputation at small churches. Paul Wilson was a dynamic personality. He commanded attention, and people clamored to be around Paul. The other member of the pastoral staff, pastor of administration, was competent. No one ever saw much of Harvey Byrne. Besides the business meetings, Harvey lived in the shadows. Most people considered Elvis fortunate to be in such a prestigious position at his first church. Elvis thought so too, until he entered his first business meeting a week after he started his ministry. He hoped to incorporate a modern worship song into the morning services. "I was saying, most people don't appreciate the style of traditional worship. It's not bad, but people don't relate to it," said Elvis. The board of deacons sat stone-faced. Paul Wilson buried his head in his notes to cover a perverse grin. Harland Finnegan, chairman of the deacons, cleared his throat. "You are asking us to do something that has never been done before. I do not think we are ready for such a drastic change." "It's not that drastic. It's one song. Just because it's new doesn't mean it's wrong. Hymns were new, once," Elvis said. "Mr. Young, watch your tone. This church has been in existence for 150 years. That has not been by accident. It has survived 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and it is going to survive the fad of modern music," said Harland. "What's so wrong with appealing to the younger generation? I've discussed this with Reverend Wingate, and he agrees with me. Don't you, Archibald?" All eyes turned to Archibald Wingate. He straightened himself up in his chair and looked intently at Elvis. "I agree with the principle of appealing to the young people. How we go about doing that is still to be determined. This is a church with a proud tradition. We can't undermine tradition simply because you have it in your head to do so," said Archibald. Elvis's jaw dropped. "You can't be serious." "Listen, Elvis, you're fresh out of seminary. You've been able to play with new ideas. We all understand that, but this is the real world. Playtime is over," said Nathaniel Juergens, the assistant chairman of the board. "We want to see you grow, but you can't just go off half-cocked with any idea that comes into your head. This is evergreen. We know how to take care of our church. Take this as a learning experience. We're not adding worship music to our services. You'll do as we request. Is that understood?" Elvis could feel the blood rushing into his face. He felt like a fool. "Understood," he growled. "Good. Moving on," said Harlan. After the meeting, Elvis hid away in his office. There was a knock at the door. "Yes?" Harvey Byrne entered and sat down. The two looked at each other in silence. Elvis noticed how old Harvey looked, older than his 57 years. "Know how long I've been doing this?" said Harvey. "No." "Care to guess?" Elvis sighed. The last thing he wanted was a game. "I have no idea." 27 years, all at this church. I've served under 3 senior pastors," said Harvey. "You got run over tonight. What'd you learn?" "What do you mean, learn? This isn't seminary." "No, it isn't. This is the learning that matters," said Harvey. "Give me a break," said Elvis. He rubbed his hands over his face. "This is so stupid." Harvey shook his head. "This is how things work in the real world. In the real world, you have pastors and deacons and nosy people who annoy you with things that probably aren't worthy of your attention. But they are worthy of your attention because they care about them. They care, so you care." Elvis looked at Harvey in desperation. "Is that what I'm supposed to learn?" "It's one of the lessons, but the most important thing you have to learn is this. Long after you've left this church, folks like Harlan and Nathaniel will still be here. This is their church, and you have to consider their opinion," said Harvey. "Why tell me this?" asked Elvis. "Like I said, I've been here a long time. I don't need the drama. Play the game and everything will run smoothly." Elvis hit his hands on the desk. "But I'm a theologian," he vented. "Now you're a politician. Welcome to the ministry. Don't worry, you can still fix this in the morning." Elvis didn't feel any better. The following morning, Elvis arrived at the office before anyone else. He sat in his office and read John 9. The man born blind was one of his favorite characters in the whole Bible. For him, everything was simple. One day he was blind, then he could see. He couldn't explain how it happened. Practically, it didn't matter. The important thing was that he got his eyesight, twice. He also loved how he taunted the religious leaders. No politics, just truth. That's the way it should be, he thought. The door of his office opened. Paul burst into Elvis's office carrying a tray with 2 cups of coffee. Paul was already laughing. "You're an idiot," said Paul as he handed Elvis a cup. "Don't start. Seriously, what do you think you were going to accomplish throwing Archie under the bus like that?" "I didn't throw him under the bus." "Listen, kid, you're new to this. You probably shouldn't even be here. This place is way over your head." "Nice. Don't take it the wrong way. It's just that you're new. You should have cut your teeth at some hick church like the rest of us. Worked your way up." "Is that how most people do it?" "Of course. A place like this will eat you alive, especially when you do something that dumb. I mean, you don't even sing. You got other people doing that for you. Why rock the boat?" Elvis took a sip of coffee. It was the nicest thing he'd felt in 2 days. Change isn't bad. Change is a swear word. Change is inevitable. God changes people. Not around here, he doesn't. Look, I hear you. You're new and you want to put your stamp on the place. I get that. But you got to be smart. And how can I be smart? Paul looked around to make sure they were alone. This one time, right? Harvey had to move the flags. They used to be on the stage, right under the spotlights. Harvey wanted to move them. Something about being a fire hazard. The deacons went crazy. It was tradition. Anyway, one week Harvey moves the flags 6 inches. Nobody notices. The next week he moves them another 6 inches. Again, no one cares. Eventually he moves them to the edge of the stage. The next week, they're put where they are now. Nobody ever noticed. "No way," said Elvis. "Yep. People hate sudden change. They don't want the inconvenience. If they don't notice it, then it's okay. Beauty, eh?" said Paul. "What does this have to do with Jesus? I mean, seriously." Paul laughed. "Dude, you're an associate pastor. Most of the stuff you do doesn't have anything to do with Jesus. I can't believe that. That's why you should have started small. Look, the sooner you learn that lesson, the easier things will be for all of us. This is a messed up place. Every church I've ever known is messed up. It's just how it is. But if you keep getting the deacons all riled up, not to mention ticking off Archie, then the whole place will be in an uproar. I've got plans, man. I don't need you doing something to blow it for me, said Paul just before he took a long swig of coffee. Yeah, what plans do you have? Paul looked around again. He dropped his backpack on the desk in front of Elvis. Paul produced a stack of papers and handed them to Elvis. What's this? Kingdom Builders? Said Elvis. He looked up at Paul. It's a discipleship program I've been working on. 6 long years. Archie and Harvey don't know about it, but I've been testing it on the youth. So far it's gone well. Why show this to me? Duh, you're in charge of education. I made an adult version too. I want you to pass it around the Sunday school. It's totally awesome. I can't do that. What if I get blown away by Archie and the deacons? Said Elvis. Paul laughed. There may be help for you yet. Let's make a deal. You do this for me and I'll help smooth things over with Archie and the boys. What do you say? I'll think about it. Yeah, you do that. By the way, when you get fired, I get your office, said Paul as he slid out the door. Elvis sat at his desk and stared at papers. Nothing registered in his mind. All he could think about was the deacons' meeting. All this was over one song. He shook his head. There was a knock at his door. Archibald stuck his head in the office. Good morning. You got a minute? Sure, what's up? Elvis already knew. Can you come to my office? This couldn't be good, thought Elvis. He followed Archibald down the long corridor to the large office at the end. It was 3 times the size of Elvis's office. The oak-paneled walls were accentuated with deep burgundy leathers and a large mahogany credenza. Bookcases filled the room. On one wall across from the desk was a genuine Rembrandt. Elvis was greeted by Harlan Finnegan, who was already seated strategically beside Archibald's desk. Good morning, young man, said Harlan. Morning, said Elvis cautiously. Archibald took his place in his high-back chair to announce the beginning of the meeting. We want to continue our discussion of last night's meeting, said Harlan. Why? I thought it was already done. You don't want any chorus or worship songs, so I won't push them. I'm sorry I even brought it up, said Elvis. He hoped this preemptive apology would diffuse the tension. We are glad to hear it. That is not all. We are also concerned with the lack of respect you displayed during the discussion. We understand your enthusiasm being fresh out of seminary, but that does not excuse how you spoke to the elders and leaders of this church, said Harlan. He spoke entirely in a monotone. Archibald stared intensely at Elvis. I'm afraid I've missed the offense, said Elvis. You took liberties speaking on behalf of Reverend Wingate in support of your misguided suggestion. You presume too much, said Harlan. Elvis sat back in his chair and held the armrests. He prayed for instant wisdom. Oh, again, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. Elvis spoke directly to Archibald. Archibald Wingate nodded slightly, then looked over at Harlan. This will be mentioned as a reprimand on your personal evaluation. Another official reprimand and you will receive further discipline, perhaps even termination if it behooves the board of directors. Do you understand? Said Harlan. Yes, sir, said Elvis as he averted his eyes from their critical gaze. Suddenly Harlan's expression lightened. Now that we have this matter settled, I have tea time in 35 minutes. Archibald, I will call you later, Harlan said as he rose to leave. Elvis stood up. Elvis, 1 second, said Archibald. Harlan closed the door behind him as he left. Archibald spoke in an enraged whisper. Don't you ever put me in a situation like that again. If you think I will take your side against Harlan and Nathaniel, you are really stupid. You want to bury your career on some ridiculous principle, you go right ahead. But if you think you can take me down with you, then God help you. I will cut you down so fast you'll have to be buried twice, said Archibald. The veins on his neck were bulging. What? That doesn't... Elvis thought quickly. I understand. You want to protect your career. He stopped short of saying all he wanted to say. My career? How dare you make me out to be some sort of selfish dictator? This isn't about my career. This is about the protection of this church.
If you haven't figured this out yet, then let me clue you in. This church is one of the flagships of this denomination. It's a pillar. You're fortunate even to be here.
Then why am I here? Elvis felt as though he was retreating into his own body, like he was a spectator to what was happening to him. Not even a week into his ministry and it was falling apart.
It just so happens that Nathaniel Jurgens is a childhood friend of Cornelius Hopkins. Apparently, Nathaniel doesn't care that Hopkins is a bold-faced heretic, but I do. If Hopkins endorsed you, then I assume that you think like he does. If I hear any idea that even remotely resembles open theism in this church, I am coming after you. As far as I'm concerned, you're already on 3 strikes. You hear me? Do you hear me?
Yes.
Is that all you have to say?
Elvis thought frantically. At the moment, yes.
Then get out of my office. Don't forget about the Sunday school assessment I assigned you to present to the educational committee tonight. It better be thorough.
It is, said Elvis. He made a hasty retreat from Archibald's office and closed the door. Waiting at the reception was Martha Finnegan, Harlan's wife. Martha was an elegant woman of 47. Her beauty was surpassed only by her exuberant personality. The thing Elvis noticed was the fact that she was always elegantly dressed. "Oh, Elvis, it is wonderful to see you this morning. Do you have a minute? I would like to talk to you. Don't worry, this will only take a second. I know you are busy." Before he could even reply, she slipped her arm in his and started leading him into his office. Behind him, Elvis heard the door of Archibald's office open. "Elvis, I haven't had the chance to tell you how wonderful it is to have you here. The church is better for it. You compliment the others so well. Let me get to the point. You are a young, handsome, single male in a church filled with eligible, beautiful young women. Don't you think it's time we found you a beautiful bride? Of course you do. I'm sure your mother's just aching for grandchildren. Anyway, please don't be upset. I took the liberty of inviting a young woman to our house for a dinner party. Chelsea Troy. Do you know her? It doesn't matter. She's a teacher. Kindergarten, I think. Tomorrow, 6 o'clock, okay? I shall see you then. Ta, said Martha. She spun on her heels and drifted back down the hallway. Elvis watched her knock on Archibald's door. "Archibald, are you in there?" she said before slipping inside and closing the door. Elvis skulked into his office and fell into his chair. Sitting on the desk in front of him was his Bible. It was still open to John chapter 9. He read the part where the man born blind was kicked out of the synagogue. Elvis envied him. He closed his Bible and worked on his resume. On his way home from church, Elvis crested a hill that overlooked an open valley. The sky was speckled with dark clouds against the purple and orange sunset. From one cloud he saw streaks of rain that fell but did not reach the ground. Elvis was mesmerized by the idea of rain that offered no nourishment to the earth below. Thank you for listening to The Pastor Who Hated Church, written by Timothy G.A. Cooper, narrated by Greg Cooper. Tune in next week to hear the next chapter in Elvis Jung's Tale of Redemption.